Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another episode of Generation Y. Remember, this is the show that is all about you. We will discuss on this show all sorts of topics that we face in our day-to-day lives. Now, last week we spoke to you about making mistakes, and we addressed some of the fears of making those mistakes. This week, inshallah, we're going to go on to see, once we've made those mistakes, how do we overcome them, and what can we do to build that confidence back in ourselves. Also, we'll look at some of the emotions that might go along with that, because naturally it's going to be a bit of a journey with ups and downs that we will all manage differently. I'm very lucky this week to have in the studio with me a very inspirational young lady. She is a 26-year-old mother of 3, and despite her ups and downs and all her challenges and obstacles, she's very much involved and very passionately involved within her community initiatives. Husna, I'd like to welcome you to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Why is it so important for you to be so active within your local community centre? Tell me why that drives you to do what you do.
Because I see the success of everybody else should be of personal interest as well, and that we're all like a family in our community, and we should always try our best to kind of do get them to become proactive and do good things that are beneficial, and we should work with them to help them and support them. And I think it's very important as the elders in the community to reach out to one another and support one another in general, to be there for our youth.
You're right. Do you know, I was reading, I was listening to a lecture the other day, and it talked about elders in the community, okay? And we look at what was happening around the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and we looked at how people formed circles then, and how they form, and how we form our circles now. And it was very interesting the way they painted that picture, that the young people tend to hang around with the young people, the middle-aged with the middle-aged, and the elderly with the elderly. And that really is something quite striking, that actually at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, everyone was quite mixed. So everyone was aware of each other's problems, everyone was able to learn from each other in different ways, and there was no, they're too young, they don't need to get involved. I mean, you've got, mashallah, three children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? And how old is your youngest?
She's 4.
And do they must keep you quite busy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you say, what's important to you about being involved, or do they see you get involved in the community centre? Do they know that you have an active role that you're playing?
Yeah, I mean, I explain what I'm doing, and obviously as parents we're example to our children, and whatever we do and the values that we have pass on to our children as well. So it's important to kind of set that for our children. So I do discuss it with them, and sometimes I have brought them into the centre as well, and they've been able to socialise with people of an older age, and they really like it, they really enjoy it.
No, that's really good, mashallah. So you're setting that kind of ground from now. Last week when we spoke about challenges and trying to believe in yourself, we spoke a little bit about fears, and that fear of making mistakes, or particular fears, or maybe negative things that have happened in the past. And how would you feel, or how would you be able to describe coming over obstacles? Would you say you were afraid when you first started out, or?
Obviously, initially, kind of like, what do I do now? You don't plan for these things to happen, but I guess Allah always gives you that strength. And I like to put things into perspective, and just to kind of keep me going as well. And it's like, life is like, if you imagine you're on a racetrack and you've got different lanes, and you're going through this journey, and the finish line is like what you hope to achieve, and we all want to get to that finish line. And so sometimes you come across hurdles and obstacles, and and say the hurdles represent, say, a mistake that you've made in your life. So you have 3 options. You can choose to stay making the same mistake again, and you lose that hope and that self-confidence that I've stopped here, it's pointless, I'm never going to get to the finish line, I should just what else is there for me to do? And they kind of lose that faith in themselves, and also that, and sometimes in Allah's mercy as well, it's too much. So yeah, you have option 1, stay at that hurdle, don't progress, don't move forward, don't get to the finish line. Or you do overcome it, but then you're always looking over your shoulder. I've made this mistake, I feel so bad, I have to get to the finish line, but you kind of just slow down. Again, it's that lack of confidence in yourself. Or you can choose number 3, which is, okay, I made a mistake. I've, you know, there's been this hurdle in my life, but I'm going to choose to go to move on. But I'm going to go even faster. I'm going to allow, you know, this mistake that I've made to become a motivation for me and to be a fuel for going even further in life. And I'm going to make up for that little pause, that thing that stopped me from going ahead. I'm going to use that to kind of propel me even faster, and I'm going to get there. So, you know, you carry on going towards, and you come out even stronger, and you do get there. So it's all about, you know, which option are you going to take, and having that belief in yourself that, okay, I made a mistake, but I'm going to learn from that mistake, and I'm going to allow it to make me stronger, and believing in yourself that, you know, and Allah's mercy as well, that I'm going to overcome this, and I'm going to try and learn from that and be an example to other people and an inspiration as well. Like, okay, yeah, I made this mistake, and sometimes people, they've been through the same situation, and you can relate to them and understand what they've been through, and you can say, yeah, I did that, but there is a way out of this vicious cycle. You don't have to kind of give up on yourself. You can carry on, and you can come out even stronger, like I did. So subhanAllah, Allah puts us in these different situations to kind of even become an example to people, and to, you know, to shine and say, yeah, I did this, you can do it, come on, and I can help you because I've been through it myself.
Yeah, that's really, that's quite nice actually, that having that as well, and looking at it in terms of it being almost how you would perform, for example, in a race. Like, you could just give up halfway, you could just be looking back all the time, or you could just be like, okay, I need to make up for that lost time. There are many different things that help us either gain confidence or lose confidence. And what I would like to hear from yourselves, call us in. Remember, this is your show and we are live. The studio number would be up on screen. Give us a call and tell us what makes you lose confidence in yourself. So call us in, say, I lose self-confidence when? Is it when you hear negative comments from other people? Do you lose self-confidence when things keep going wrong? Is it when you've not got all the information that you need for a particular project, for example, and you don't quite know where to start, and you just feel like you're getting obstacles and hurdles all the time? Do call us in and tell us what prevents you from just going that last bit, just reaching that finishing line. What is always holding you back? Because there are many different things that we could go through. One of the interesting things that you picked up on, Husna, was being that example for other people. What would you say for those people who are worried about making mistakes in front of other people, or having that fear of what are other people going to say?
I think it's having that confidence in yourself. Like, okay, I made this mistake, and Allah is the ultimate judge. And, you know, inshallah, Allah has forgiven you, and and you're going to learn by that mistake. And rather than feeling, bad about that, yes, regret what you have done, but be a source of inspiration and say, yeah, I did that, but it's made me a stronger individual. It's made me, the person that I am today. In fact, I don't know if I would have been as successful, because it's that mistake that made me realize that I've really got to work hard, and that's the very source of who I am today.
And that's it. And I think that's something quite important to remember, that actually when we look at ourselves, and the first point of evaluation should be ourselves. I mean, we reflect, and when we pray, even when we're walking around, there's this constant kind of self-evaluation, and not necessarily for other people, but for ourselves instead. And what I always like to think about is when you pick up on those maybe not so good things about yourself, or things that you want to better, and people always ask, what are your weaknesses? You can turn around and view your weaknesses very differently. You can very easily turn them into strengths. Say, actually, one of your strengths, and you can make this like an everyday thing. You can turn your strengths and say, look, one of my strengths is that I am able to recognize my weaknesses, and that allows me to be able to work on them. And that's something very, very powerful to be able to do. Even if you feel that it's a certain comment, or it's a repetitive comment that you find from other people when you're about to embark on a new journey, or you've just discovered something exciting that you can do, or a new opportunity, whether it be a new course, or whether it be moving into a different place of a school or a workplace, and you know, people put things off, mention things from your past, for example, at least you're able to acknowledge them and then, you know, bring back from that. So actually, I know that X, Y, Z might be an issue. Let me try and work on it and better it for myself.
Yeah, I think we have to realize that we're all like a puzzle piece in the community, where one lacks, the other fills in, like a puzzle. And we all, like, one person has one weakness, the other person has that as their strength. And so with that strength, they can help the other person, and we all come together because we've all got our different weaknesses. And it's for the other person with that strength to kind of support the other, and then we're kind of like complete, like a puzzle. So, you know.
That's very nice actually you mentioned that, because we had a caller in last week who was trying to do a project, or wasn't sure in how to do a project for addressing mental health issues within, I think it was specifically the Asian communities, and it was just that, how do you go about in bringing people together, and the caller had spoken something very specific, is I think it was about postnatal depression, and it was just that idea of being, for example, of having to go through a period of isolation and depression, and something that you said was quite nice, that everybody, if you all get together, it is like puzzle pieces, and just filling in those blanks for people, that can be quite, I think it can be quite a powerful thing to be able to do and experience.
I mean, where one lacks, the other fills in, and that's what completes everything, you know. It's satisfying to yourself, for our own selves as well, that we've kind of helped the other person, and now, you know, they're able to get up and continue and maybe even support other people. Yeah. We've kind of set that going, you know, had that going now, that we've helped this person to continue with their life, and we've helped them, and they've been able to do that for other people as well. So
brilliant. And you know, I was going to say, there was something I came across the other day about, and we mentioned in our first show, about self-image. I mean, how much do you think image and the way we portray ourselves has an effect on confidence? Would you say you're very image conscious about?
Not so much, not like in like where I'm vain or anything, but I think, you know, how we carry ourselves, kind of, the other person does sense that. So if we're quite like, you know, we're not feeling very confident, and we show that through our body language and the way that we speak, people pick up on that. Whereas if you come in and you're like, you know, and you're confident in yourself, people can feel that off you as well.
And how would you say, for example, if someone was, say you had a young person come into the youth centre, how would you be able to tell, if you could paint a picture of somebody confident, what would give off those vibes to you that, yeah, this is a really confident young person who's come in, who's going to do really, really well, or, you know, is just going to open up and really kind of intermingle without too much of a fuss?
I guess it's that you feel the energy of them, isn't it? You know, it just kind of bounces off. When you're confident, you kind of, it just comes out, you know. They're like, the way that they speak, the way they carry themselves, their body language, the way that, you know, even like the tone of the voice, whereas if they're like really quiet and, you know, and they kind of hung low.
So would you say then, to be confident, you've got to be quite loud and in your face?
No, definitely not. But it's just being able to kind of carry that conversation, and it's in everything, your body language, your tone. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're shouting at the top of your voice, or, you know, like, I'm really confident, yeah. You know. But yeah, definitely how they come across is how you come across as an individual. Definitely, people can feel that, can sense that, you know, confidence. So.
And what would you say about people that are really conscious of themselves in terms of their appearances? I think we were talking earlier, and you mentioned an article that you read. Was it an article or a bit of research that was done about self-image?
Something I watched, yeah. They conducted like a survey for the children, and they asked them, how do you feel about yourself in terms of your self-image? And they were young girls, and some of them were like, yeah, I think I look okay. And some of them, no, I think I'm fat. And they're like stick thin. And some of them were negative, and some of it was positive. And then after that, they asked them another question. they said, how do your parents feel about themselves in terms of their image? What do they say about themselves? And they found out that the girls that were confident in their appearance were the ones that said, yeah, mommy thinks she's pretty, mommy thinks she's, not in a vain kind of way, but mommy's happy with the way that she looks. But the ones that were criticising themselves were the ones that said, yeah, mommy thinks she's too fat too, and she's not happy with her skin tone, she's not happy with the size of her nose, or just anything. She's always criticising herself. And so the children pick up on that, and then they end up doing that too. So as parents, it's very important how we perceive ourselves and what we say in front of our children as well. Because sometimes sisters, they do want to be humble as well. Like someone will compliment, oh, you look beautiful, but they say, no, and I'm really fat. But they're not realising that their children are standing right next to them thinking, but mommy's not fat. Because she just said she's fat. That means I must be fat because I'm like the same size. So
it's really quite it's quite astounding actually how much of an effect it can make, because we're always picking up what is the norm, or what is right, or what is good and what is acceptable through the society around us and through the people that we intermingle with. And you're right that when you've always got people around you, for example, that are, if you've always got someone that's conscious about the way that they look or the way that they dress, you're naturally going to take that on, aren't you? I mean, if you were constantly surrounded by people who are checking their hijabs all the time, or looking at, how their clothes sat, and what effect do you think that would have on you?
I think this is what's important. Obviously, they find it important, so this is what I have to do as well. So.
And how do you think you would impart that without, subconsciously or consciously on your children? What kind of effect do you think that would have on them?
They'll start believing that as well, isn't it? Because you're their influence, and especially somebody that they look up to as well. As parents, they're like, whatever they say is definitely is correct. So if mummy thinks she's fat, if mummy thinks she looks like this, then this is then I'm clearly just as fat as she is. Subhanallah.
So so all these kind of things, you can pick out, pick something that is comfortable for you. I think part of being confident is also being confident in yourself, that you're quite happy, quite clearly. That seems to be one of the issues, that if you are happy with yourself, whether it's internally and externally, that you're actually focused more on, for example, a task, that you can overcome that. And it's not unknown for people to be self-conscious of themselves and their appearances and things like that. But that shouldn't be necessarily an obstacle or a barrier for you to go out and do what you want to do. Because everybody views things very differently. Just like the program you were watching, depending on what was around them, that was the norm and that was the reality. And it won't be like that when you go through different phases of your life. Confidence can come in many forms. Sometimes, it can be the people that surround you. They can also be your boost for confidence, can't they? In terms of like role models and mentors.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And how do you, so for example, at your community centre that you're at, how would you say would be the perfect kind of scenario for someone to walk into, to know that there are going to be people there to help them sort of progress and go forward? What would you be able to pick out in terms of, this is something that is going to boost so-and-so's confidence? Or
I guess you speak to them and you allow them to address like the things that are affecting them. You especially when you spend a lot of time with the youth, you kind of get to know their personality and the way that they are, and you pick up on their levels of confidence. And then as you build that relationship as well, and they've got more confidence in you, you can kind of help them as well and guide them and give them advice. Yeah,
it really helps when you know exactly who you've got as well. I think we've got a caller on the line. Have we got Qasim on the line? Have we got Qasim? Qasim from Manchester,
Hello.
You there? Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for calling in. Are you going to finish off the sentence for us?
Sorry?
Are you going to finish off the sentence for us? So I lose confidence when...
I believe that the people who lose confidence, I think that they shouldn't be afraid to just go and have a chat with different people, like from different places, like for example Saudi Arabia or let's say hello?
Hello, yeah, from different countries, you mean?
Sorry?
Do you mean from different countries?
I believe that when they're from different parts of the world, I believe that everyone deserves the right to actually talking to different deserve equal rights. I mean, if this person has
and how would
no
you
confidence,
say that boosts your confidence? How will that help someone then increase their confidence? What can they take from that?
I think that they should take the fact that they've come from a really low environment and they're obviously going to be shy. So if they could actually be friends with them somehow and then just eventually help them boost their confidence in a way where when they go outside in the bigger world they can understand and talk to other people who they've never met in their life.
Yeah, I think that is something really vital. Thank you so much for your call, Qasim. That's really a very interesting thought that you've left us with. I hadn't actually thought of that, going out and speaking to people from other places, like really reaching out to help boost confidence as well. Is that something that you'd ever thought about, Husna?
Yeah, definitely. I think there actually needs to be more of that. And I was actually talking to someone at the youth centre. Some people came in and they work in a predominantly white area, a youth centre over there. And a lot of the youth, they do find that they have their own kind of views against us, like don't go into that area, that's the brown area or whatever, the Asian area. And then we kind of stay in our areas and we're like, don't go over there because that's the white area. And we kind of like section ourselves. And I think it's very important to mingle and to kind of establish relationships within, different, nationalities and things. And it really helps people that, yeah, they've taken us in. And it's kind of like dawah as well, isn't it? Removing that kind of image of Muslims as well, the way that we are in the media, and saying, well, we're not going to judge you because you're a different race and come from a different place. And we know
anyway within Islam that we completely eradicate that. So really, if we're looking at our backgrounds and where we've come from in terms of nationality and things like that, to use that as a negative thing for you, sometimes it isn't always very progressive, and those things kind of do hold us back a little bit, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was very interesting view there. Do call it in. This is your show. Please remember that you can air your views. What is it that makes you lose your confidence? We've talked about a few different things here and different ways about boosting your confidence as well. Pick up if you've got some weaknesses. You can always work on them. There are always things that we can fix. Other things are look at other people. Look at what works for some. You can pick and choose from anyone what kind of traits that you want to have. And if something is working for someone, then we can use that, inshallah, to work on ourselves as well. There's a famous saying that we should learn from the mistakes of others because we'll never live long enough to make them all ourselves anyway. And inshallah, we can continue with that. In the second half of the show, we're going to be looking at how we can manage our emotions, inshallah. So do stay tuned in. We're going to go for a short break. And after that break, I will remind you again of that project that we all want everybody to get involved in. We will have some reminders, some hints and tips for you, inshallah. And I would like you to call in and talk about that. And inshallah, Husna, you'll be able to give some of your input and some ideas for that. Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Definitely.
Yeah? Okay. So do remember that you're going to be calling us in. The studio number is there. If you're not too confident in calling us in, you can always email us. We're generation@iqra.tv. Please do give us your thoughts and your feedbacks. Husna and I are going to go for a short break, and inshallah we'll see you when we get back. Don't go too far.
Ooh.